London Transport, a crowded journey to work for millions of commuters, but the result of one of the most successful corporate rebrands ever. One which used the clean and functional lines of Art Deco to sell a single unified image to the travelling public. This is St James's Station, which lies at the heart of the London Underground network. And up here is a fantastic Deco building from which the whole network is run. In 1929, this building was the nearest thing you'd have in Britain to the experience of an American skyscraper. The Underground came in beneath the building. You could come up through here and go straight to work in the centre of London Transport's offices. You've got shops out here, you've got multiple exits from the building, you've got wonderful Art Deco detailing, these very, very abstract classical columns in this fantastic travertine marble, big entrance hall protected from the weather, fantastic clock, a jazz sunburst with it. The whole thing says modernity, it says the future, it says not being outside in the rain. And it's the easiest way to go to work. You come out of the station, you're straight in the office. It's suddenly quiet and you get the feeling of control in here. Particularly these machines are here to show that this is the nerve centre of the whole transport operation. These tell you the intervals between trains, but that's not really what they symbolically do. They're all about giving the illusion that this building is quietly, efficiently, solidly organising the transport of London. And here's where you can see it. This is the language of control. And the travertine walls, they're marble, but what's important about this marble is it has a sense of flow. They look like rivers that have been frozen in stone. And of course, this motion is what this building is all about.
London, a great capital. More people than in any other city in the world, forever on the move over its vast surface. 11 million journeys made every day by London transport vehicles. The far reaches of the city stretch out to each other, and all London is linked together.
After the First World War, the many companies that ran London's public transport began to amalgamate and modernise. By the 1920s, the Underground Group controlled Britain's first truly modern transport system, combining not just the vehicles and trains, but technology, engineering, design and branding. The hub of the system was its new Art Deco headquarters at 55 Broadway, in the heart of Westminster. This is a fantastic space. The lobby, the lift lobby of this building, it's really, really American. It's like a compressed version of the Empire State Building. Not least, this thing that tells you where the lifts are, what floor they're in. Although it only goes up to 10, it looks like a great tower block. It's suggestive of height and lifts, lifting enormous things up great high buildings, but of course it isn't. And the 4 lifts here are the nerve centre of what makes this lobby modern. So it's very grand, it's a great statement, and of course when you come into this lobby you've already been through a lot of the building, which is the entrance from the station, but also it's a kind of arcade of shops. And this is really the essence of this building's modernity, is that all the things, the shops, the tube station, the lobby, the lifts, it all takes place indoors, not out there in the open. This is a whole block we're standing in, not some tiny little building off a street. 55 Broadway was big, bold and very modern. Much of the pleasure was in the Deco detail. It's often the most neglected bits of these buildings that are the best. I mean, this is just a quiet little staircase. Probably nobody ever comes down there, but it's a really lovely little Art Deco moment because this travertine is used to give large, interesting, flat, neutralish spaces. These are highlighted. This is a real Art Deco thing. You use highlights to bring to life plainness And the top edge of this baluster is nice and shiny, the goldness that you only get from bronze, which is a real lush gold. And then this sort of sunburst, although it's a much used motif, it always kind of gives you the sense that you've got to be going up. It's a positive thing. Even these balusters have this kind of growth movement thing going on. And I've just noticed here they have these, I guess there must have been skylight windows or something. But even these have a kind of jazziness about them. And I mean, it has been a rude term, jazz modern, but sometimes it's the term that works, and here it does. Anyway, going up here. Oh, this is nice, the stone ends and you get these tiles beginning. There must have been millions of these tiles, making the whole of the inside of the underground light and fresh and airy and, of course, hygienic. More bronze. Oh, now this is really fantastic because these balusters, when you look up this stairwell, you see them in all their magnificent primitivism. Lovely. Oh, map. London. And even now that buildings have grown in height, not many come above this, but in 1929, this was the tallest thing around. And being up here on the 10th floor was at least 3 stories above everyone else. So here, you're on top of the world. Finished in 1929, 55 Broadway was the tallest building in London, a gleaming white monolith to the ambition of the new organisation. You know, you can feel the underground through the ground here, vibrating, coming from that building over there. It really looks like a skyscraper. It has that kind of ziggurat ancientness about it. It's tall and it's narrow and it's white. It's modern and primitive all at the same time. And it's very American. Art Deco drew much inspiration from the primitivism of ancient cultures, particularly the Egyptian and Mayan civilizations. One thing you can really appreciate from up here, perhaps the best view of this building, is how different it is from all the other buildings around it. These old buildings here are on a block, but they're 4 buildings to a block. This occupies one huge site with a street marking the boundaries. That's a very, very American design, pioneered in the 1880s when the first skyscrapers were put up. It's a real tour de force example of the modern Britain, not the Victorian Dickensian Britain, but the new, forward-looking, futuristic Britain. Not least because it's a great big white building surrounded by coal-stained old grot. This stone, Portland stone, is the stone of choice for most British architects because this stone, which is somewhere between limestone and marble, epitomises the nature of Britain. It has the whiteness of the white cliffs, although this isn't white because, as you can see, it's filthy. It's stuffed with fossils, and somehow it combines modernity and ancientness all in the same thing. It's clean, modern, but also you can see this sediment of old Britain squashed into lumps of stone. So it's the ideal choice for a headquarters building. Nothing says stability and foreverness like this stone. Holden intended this building as a new Temple of the Winds. Aware it was likely to shock, he chose to commission works from avant-garde sculptors like Henry Moore and Eric Gill to adorn each elevation. Holden chose Jacob Epstein, one of the most controversial artists of the day, to contribute 2 pieces called Night and Day. it was a bold choice. This sculpture of Day by Sir Jacob Epstein, when it was put up, caused great offence, a great scandal, because the penis of the boy was originally about 1.5 inches longer. And this extra 1.5 inches had the effect that when the rain ran down it, water cascaded off the end of the penis into the street. So 1.5 inches had to come off. The primitivism of the sculpture represents, in a way, the primitive power of electricity. And the thing about modernism and primitivism was that they talked about huge, uncontrollable forces. The force of electricity was like the ancient force of gods. And here, this ancient, unknowable god of day, sending his son off to do his job in the world, is what this sculpture is all about. It's not immediately obvious to the passerby, but you get this sense that the underground, its electricity, is a great, heavy, primitive god. Frank Pick crucially understood the value of good design and that the look of London transport is its personality. He had begun his modernisation programme by commissioning posters that would persuade commuters to use the trains in their leisure time. In the 1920s, bright, colourful Art Deco design